In this video, you learn how to sing and play guitar at the same time. Now, while it might seem like there are two things to work on here, the playing and the singing, there are actually three, and this is why so many people struggle with this skill. Hi, this is Simon Candy from AcousticGuitarLessonsOnline.net, and in this lesson, I sit down with songwriting mastery coach Diana de Cabarrus to discuss and demonstrate the skill of playing guitar and singing at the same time. You're going to learn the three things you need to get right to be able to master this skill. Knowing both parts in isolation, the singing and the guitar playing, is really important when learning to sing and play guitar at the same time. However, it's also learning how to coordinate the two parts together that is absolutely vital if you are to sing and play guitar at the same time. So in this video, Diana is going to take us through the process step by step, showing you exactly what you need to do so that singing and playing guitar is easy for you to do.
Perhaps we'll begin by defining the actual challenge here with singing and playing guitar at the same time. How would you present the challenge that we have here?
As someone who was never picked for any teams at school that involved throwing or catching, I think they let me into the running team, which only requires determination and a willingness to endure pain. But I don't have any great level of personal coordination. I think coordination is the challenge with singing and playing, because it seems like it would be two things. There's something happening with your playing and then you're singing, 1, 2. But there's actually three things, because there is the singing, the playing, and your brain synchronizing those things in time. That's like a slightly separate aspect to the quality of the singing or playing. That's one thing that's helpful to separate when we're thinking about how can we get all these things working together. Of course, ultimately you want to be playing in time and you want the singing to be in tune, but the question of where the events are happening in time, like if you imagine sort of like an earthquake, one of those things with a seismograph, don't know how you pronounce it, only ever seen it written down. It's charting every little event, and your brain also has to sequence every event from like the onset of the word to the kind of change of chord to the, and you know, with guitar playing anyway, we've got left hand is doing one thing, right hand is doing something else. There's already kind of a bit of a coordination challenge there. The hands have to synchronize, and now you're adding something else. So I think one of the first things that is helpful to take on board when you're thinking about singing and playing is that it's actually three things, and you've got this part of the process that is helping your brain sequence everything. That's helpful to think about as separate from how well am I singing and playing, and you want to almost work on that as a separate step. So you might be rehearsing the vocal line and getting the pitching and timing of that correct, and you might be working on making sure you're changing chords fluently and that you're not muting any. But this question of what order the things are happening and training the order, helping your brain really accurately cue the different events. Your brain can basically only concentrate on one thing at a time. The things that it's not able to give, fully concentrate on consciously have to be automated. So just like when you're driving a car, you're not going to pass your test until you're well enough practiced that the muscle memory of the gear changes, etc., are completely automatic. You're not thinking every time, right, I need to do the signal, that process has been automated because you practiced it a bunch of times before passing your test. So, and that means you can give your full concentration to like what's happening on the road, who's coming, there's a pedestrian, somebody's, not indicated when they're pulling out, whatever. So you can kind of deal with the actual road. No one thinks that we need to be specially talented to get a driving license, but no one thinks that we can just get in a car and start driving it. There's no reason why if you can learn to drive a car, you can't learn to synchronize singing and playing. But it is just a question of making sure you know exactly the order things are happening and how long for. So this is just a set of chords for a fairly well-known song called Wagon Wheel. And how they're written out here, those of you that have had a bit of exposure to reading music of any kind will already know, but it just is telling us that we're going to play each chord, and each chord's going to last for 4 beats. So G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, E minor, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, then G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, and then we're just going to repeat that. And that cycle is the whole song. So it's fairly clear when you've got it written out like that, what is happening in the song, and you can be very, very sure about how long each chord is lasting for, and you can practice that and you can play it along with the song and you can get that in your mind. Now I apologize if this is a bit small, but I just wanted to give you the contrasting example that typically when we look up songs, like if you put it in wagon wheel chords into the internet, you will get something like this. The benefit of this is it does show us one very important thing that we need if we're going to sing and play, which is the word and syllable upon which the chord changes. So if I take the first line of this, it's like, heading down south to the land of the pines, I'm thumbing my way. So we need that piece of information. We need to know which syllable, which word the chord changes on. And these tabs do show us this, but what they do not show us, that we absolutely have to know, is what the pattern is for the song and how long each chord lasts for. Because if you, typically we're going to make some inferences from what we see visually, and we can see there's lots of G's and D's and E minors, but we can't see that it's a simple repeating pattern of 8 chords. And we also can't see how long each chord lasts for. So you basically, before you even get to what I'm going to explain, you need a little bit of pen and paper work where you establish exactly how long each chord lasts for, and you turn something like this, which just has the words and the chords, into something like we saw before, where it's very clear how long each chord lasts for. If you've got this kind of thing covered already, don't worry, there's more that we're going to get to in a sec. For example, here, if we looked at this, we wouldn't necessarily know that the G, the D, and the C all lasted for 4 beats. It kind of looks a bit like the G that is lasting for less time than the D because of how they're spaced. So we need to translate the lyrics and the chords from something like this to something that like we saw before. That's the part of really knowing what's happening in the music. You really know what the chords are and how long they last for. And this might sound obvious, but it sort of isn't necessarily obvious if you take if you put in chords to a song and you get something like that. So how do you go about turning a tab, by which I mean the words with the chords written on top, into a little chord chart, by which I mean that we have the chords written above the bars and we know exactly that they last for 1 bar or 2 bars or half a bar. If you just can look up the tab and that's what you've got to go on, you take that and then you play the song and you count it. A good tip is to look it up on YouTube, go to the little wheel cog on the right hand side and slow it down. And then you're simply going to play it and you're going to work out, you could play the root note of the chord if you want to, but just count and you'll be able to hear when the chord changes so that you can turn something like the tab into a chord chart. That's step 1, getting very clear on what the music actually is. And once you've done that with the chords, you then take the words and you're going to go through them. And when you hear the chord change, and I can make this very obvious. If I was going, headed down, I'm going to tap my foot loudly so that you can hopefully hear it. Headed down south to the land of the pines, I'm thumbing my way to North Carolina. You would then like underline the syllable, heading down south to the land. And then you go to obviously the word land is where the chord changes next. Thumbing my way, thumb, that's going to be where it changes to the next chord. North Carolina, and you go through the lyrics like that so that you know exactly where the chord is going to change. I'll give you another example. I'm the king of the swingers, the jungle VIP. I reached the top and I had to stop. That's what's bothering me. So there we've got the word I'm on the first. I'm the king of the swingers, the jungle VIP. And then we know that on the word P is when it's changing to the next chord. That's what you do first. It's really worth investing the time there. I know that sometimes if there's a song we really want to play, we just want to get involved, but if you do this first, you're going to get to the point where you can sing and play it much more quickly. At this point, it's also worth mentioning that if we're thinking about singing and playing, depending on how much experience you already have, you might want to make an assessment of how hard or easy a song is going to be to sing and play, especially if there isn't necessarily, you might be wanting to sing and play a song, and Wagon Wheel's a good example. It doesn't have like a strummy guitar part. It has a rhythm part that's made up of double bass, banjo, fiddle. There's probably a guitar doing something, but there's not like an obvious strummy guitar part that you can just copy. You've got to extract and create your own accompaniment that fits with a song. So songs where you're going to have to do that might need a little bit more time than songs where there's an obvious guitar part that you can just hear and copy, or songs that have maybe something on the piano, but it's very, very obvious what it is. So a song, for example, that has just got 4 downbeats in the bar, that just does that, is going to be a lot easier than a song that has a lot of syncopation or a lot of fast strumming, or where you're going to have to create your own rhythm part based on the groove of the song that you can hear, if there maybe isn't if there's not necessarily an obvious guitar part. So examples of songs that have that 1, 2, 3, 4 downbeat pattern. King of the Swingers is a good example. I'm the king of the swingers. So it's just downstrokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's loads of songs that do that. There's Sunny Afternoon by the Kinks. The tax man's taken all my dough. And and another example would be Mr. Blue Sky. Sun is shining in the sky. There ain't a cloud in sight. Stop raining. So it's just you're just doing downstrokes. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So it's just on the beat, and that is always going to be easier than something that's got like something that's very fast, got loads of strumming, in terms of how you assess how long it's going to take and how difficult it's going to be and where you're at just now. So if you're starting out with this kind of thing, you probably want to go for a song or arrangement that would lend itself to that kind of a slightly more approachable pattern, rather than going for something that has loads and loads of syncopation, loads of complexity right away. One of the things you want to do is classify how easy or complex a song is going to be before you start on it. Once you have made sure you know exactly how long each chord lasts, you want to practice the chords until you could do them ideally without looking at the guitar. So you want to be able to so that you really can play them very fluently and you're not having to stop and refinger. If you want one very quick hack about how to get any chord to that point or any chord change to that point, set a timer for a minute and make each transition in the song for 1 minute. So if you have a song that has 4 chords, rather than setting a time for the minute and playing chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, chord 4, chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, chord 4, you're going to spend a minute doing chord 1, chord 2, chord 1, chord 2, chord 1, chord 2, chord 1, chord 2. Then you're going to spend a minute doing chord 2, chord 3, chord 2, chord 3. The reason why it works much better that way is that you give your muscle memory the chance to build up much more quickly. If you are playing 4 chords in a row, it takes a lot longer for your hands and brain to remember what they're supposed to be doing than if you just play 2 chords and you repeat them. You also can tell, if you do that, whether there's one transition that is slower than the rest. So if you time yourself and you count how many times you can transition between chords on 2 chords, and then the next 2 chords, and the next 2 chords, and let's say that you can do 30 transitions in 1 minute for chords 1 and 2, but you can only do 19 between chord 2 and 3, you'll know that that's one's going to need more attention before it's going to be up to the same level as the rest and before you can start adding the vocals in.
If you like this video, you'll love this ebook complete with video examples called 10 melodic fingerpicking patterns you can learn in 10 minutes or less. Do you struggle to make the fingerpicking patterns you learn on guitar sound like music? Perhaps it's because you believe in one or more of these fingerpicking pattern myths. 1. You need to know a lot of patterns to have your fingerpicking sound musical. 2. Only advanced fingerpicking patterns sound musical. Easy patterns are too basic to sound any good. Or 3. There is a magic pattern out there somewhere that once found will finally have your fingerpicking sound the way you want it to. None of these myths are true. This is because fingerpicking patterns alone are not musical. They're technical. It's what you do with the patterns that will determine how musical they sound. In this ebook, you learn how to make the most boring fingerpicking patterns sound amazing instantly. Plus, the simple trick to make advanced fingerpicking patterns easier to play, and the thumb and one finger trick that's so simple and will have your fingerpicking sounding pro in no time. Click the link in the description below this video and download your free ebook complete with video examples, 10 melodic fingerpicking patterns you can learn in 10 minutes or less. You'll have it in your inbox within minutes. Let me know in the comments section what acoustic guitar topics you'd like to see covered in future videos. I read all your comments. I do my best to reply to them all. I love to hear from you, so don't be shy. Drop me a line below. If you like this video, then hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. My YouTube analytics tell me that 80% of people who watch my videos are not subscribed. So if you like them, subscribe and hit the notification bell button. That way YouTube will let you know when I release a new video, which is every single week. This is Simon Candy from AcousticGuitarLessonsOnline.net. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate your time very, very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.